news, Nigeria's dairy sector, very, very important. It's facing a number of challenges. We've got some data points that speak to those challenges. As far as, according to the Ministry of Agriculture, 60% of consumption of dairy products being imported, $1.5 billion annually being spent on imports as of 2020. Per capita milk consumption, 8 liters. The globe is 44. The livestock sector plagued by poor breed quality and conflicts. How do we sort this out? Joining us to discuss further, Mr. Oshiokamele, who is the Oshiokamele Aruna, Managing Director, Tetra Pak West Africa. You're very welcome to join us.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. So these challenges in the dairy sector, what do you make of them? Are they insurmountable?
Thank you for having me. I think the data points you shared clearly states the challenges that we have now. The good news is they are not insurmountable. These are situations that, we can actually face together, and there are very clear things that we can do to begin to see changes in them.
All right, so you're a stakeholder, you're in this space. Does government partner with you? Do stakeholders come together separate from the public sector? What needs to be done?
I think you need to look at those challenges in some buckets, right? So the first thing you look at is technology. Where we are today, we need to start improving on how we use technology to improve our dairy. Whether it's machines, whether it's AI, whether it's digitization, we need to start doing that together with the private sector. The other part, of course, is infrastructure. We need to improve, when you make this dairy, when you make this milk, how do you transport it to the people that need to consume it? How do you store them? Those are areas that we need to focus on, and you have many private sector players that are already working in that. The last thing actually is on awareness, all right? And if I ask you today, have you had a glass of milk today?
I have not.
Exactly. and that is where we also need to start from. We need to inculcate that in the dairy habits of Nigerians. Today we have a school feeding program which is feeding millions of children, and one small change we can do is introduce dairy into it. And that will not only improve their diet, but also very good for the business of dairy.
Yeah, look, proteins, calcium, good for the bones and all that. So what about the farmers? How do you encourage the farmers to produce more?
I think for the farmers, that's where a bit of technology comes in. So you need to look at, like you said, we have only 8 liters, average is 44 liters. That's a huge gap. So why is that? It's because, whether it's the pastures that they use in feeding, whether it's in the insemination they have with the cattle, is not the right one. So that is where we need to encourage them. There's a lot about farming, livestock farming, that these guys don't know, that they need to get those information that will improve the yield of the cattle that we have today. And that there is a lot of things that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture can do, of course, together with known and big players like Tetra Pak, we do that in several countries around the world today.
Sustainability. Can you talk about how you're promoting that as far as sustainable dairy production and reducing the environmental impact of said production?
Great. So when it comes to sustainability, listen, dairy needs 2 of the big things dairy need is water and, of course, electricity. Okay, what we have done, and practical example, in 2021, we partnered with one of the milk producers in Nigeria, and we went to Oyo State. We had a group of about 750 farmers, and we said, let's sink a borehole for you. Let us make sure we provide solar panel electricity for you. What did that do? That made sure that, they had clean water. It also made sure that, they didn't have to worry about the electricity of pumping that water. That improved their yield. That improved the safety and the quality of their product. That in itself, is a small part of how we can begin to drive sustainability. Then you go to the big part of, the processing equipment that you can use in the big industries. But I always believe in, let's start small, all right? If we do that small steps in all the smallholder farms that we have in Nigeria, we would have made some good mileage when it comes to sustainability development.
It sounds, you talk about sinking a borehole and all these other provisions, it almost sounds like you're a government. Shouldn't government be providing more of these things for farmers? Like this trip to Oyo State and where you provided all these services?
No, I think, there is a national dairy policy now that was approved, I think, in May this year. I think that's a good step, where you have a framework where we can do many of those things. And we are government as well. So, of course, government has a lot to do when it comes to policies and regulations. But in addition to that, the private sector also has, because apart from providing food, there is also good business in it, which not only provides food security, but also job for 200 million people. So that's why we are also vested in this, if I'll say that.
Would you say agriculture is, the dairy particularly, as part of agriculture, one of the most important sectors in the country?
Do you know that 2 of the biggest dairy companies in this world operating in Nigeria are owned by farmers?
Ah, okay, yes. I didn't know that.
Fully owned by farmers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are making so much money, and they are giving back to the farmers in these cooperatives in their country. Why can't we do that? So for me, I mean, it's something that we can do. We have the arable land. We have the cattle herd to do that. We just need to begin to, use these policies and partner with the smallholder farmers. We need to create cooperatives for them where they can get their milk, bring it to these milking stations or collection stations, and then they are processed properly. So yes, I mean, I think dairy in agriculture of Nigeria, it's big, and it's going to continue.
I'm seeing a link here. In our last segment, we had, we're talking about hospitalities and tourism and building tourism. And now, of course, with farming, insecurity affects both, from, disincentivizing people who want to travel here to farmers who want to come to the farm. So how important is the insecurity matter in trying to boost agriculture? Because you talked about Oyo State, there's also arable land up north and Middle Belt, but they have some insecurity issues.
Good question. And that's where one of the misconceptions as well. When you think dairy, people say, it's the north. It's only the north. Oh no, if we don't get dairy from the north, nothing. But the world has moved from that, and that's where, when I mentioned earlier, technology comes into place. Yes, we do have insecurity in certain areas where work is being done to improve that. But it does not stop us developing our dairy industry in other parts of the world. Like I gave you, Oyo State, you have the southeast, you have the south-south, where with technology, we can actually have dairy farms, we can have herds of cattle, and we can continue milking the cows and producing milk for people to consume. So yes, insecurity is there, but it should not be a showstopper when it comes towards developing. We can always diversify to other parts of the country.
Very, very, very encouraging. I gotta have a glass of milk after this segment is over. Mr. Oshiokamele, the Aruna, MD, Tetra Pak West Africa. Thank you so much for a very informative discussion on dairy, agriculture, health, jobs, and so on and so forth. Appreciate your time.